As you know, only 30 days left for your upcoming examination of the JIB. So this is the time when you should just get up your preparation. And from today, we are going to start a new series. In this series, we are going to discuss the most important question, and whatever the question we are going to discuss, that actually based on the previous year memory based question. So if you're finding anything is important, just quickly note down that. Okay. So if you're new on the Officers Adda 247, just hit the subscribe button and download the Adda 247 application. And before to proceed further, I would like to say there is a very important announcement, because the lot of demand we are just getting from your side, that for the fresh batch, and the fresh batch that is going to start from the 20th of May. Okay, so from the 20th of May, the new batch that is going to start, the batch name is a selection batch. Okay, so in this batch you have to use the code while enrolling, that is Y422, and with this code you are going to get the big discount on that. So you are going to get the quality content, or you are going to get the all the content that actually based on the fully exam oriented. Okay, as well as you are going to get the ebooks, mock test, live classes, and after that recorded classes also. Okay, so now just start the session today with the very first question of that. That question is taken from the bank reconciliation statement. So let's start. Okay, so whenever we're talking about the bank reconciliation statement, you can understand this kind of the questions you may get in the examination in the 2 marks. Okay, so how to solve this kind of the question in the examination? Just quickly understand that whenever we are just having the any passbook, like, and if the passbook balance is given, that clearly means that we have to find out the cash book balance. Okay, so here the passbook balance is given, and the question is what will be the cash book balance. So just write here cash book and just make the table like this, like the cash book and passbook. Okay, after that just read one by one every condition. Okay, now if the question is given here that is debit balance or overdraft balance as per the passbook. Okay, suppose that in the question that would only be given like the debit balance as per the passbook is given. Okay, so now lot of ones just confused in this, that whether the positive figure would be taken with the balance or negative figure would be taken with the balance. So just understand a very important thing. Whenever we talking about the cash book and we talk about the debit and credit side of that you can just understand, on the debit side we actually record the cash receipts, and on the credit side we actually just record the cash payments. Okay, and cash book and the passbook both are the mirror image of each other. That means whatever the component we have keep on the debit side of the cash book, the same would be on the credit side of the passbook. Okay, so you can understand the cash receipts on the passbook side, you can understand that is going to record on the credit side, and payments, or you can also understand the customer's liability. Okay, that is going to record on the debit side of the passbook, right? Now if the debit balance is given, that means it is a kind of the liabilities of the customers are given, right? So you have to just write here that is minus 1,50,000 rupees. That means you have to just record, or you have to just write this balance with a negative figure. Okay, and if the overdraft balance is straightway given, then you can understand, if the overdraft balance is given, that means you have to write with this value with the negative figure, and with the negative figure like the minus 1,50,000 rupees. Okay, now just read the condition one by one. Check deposited but not yet collected. Now you can understand, actually customer immediately record the transaction in his cash book. So you can understand when the check deposited. Okay, so you can understand check is deposited, like 20,000 rupees check is deposited. So that is going to record under the cash book of the customer, and it is not collected by the bank. So you can understand in the bank statement this is actually reflecting as a zero, right? So cash book balance is a greater than or lesser than the passbook. Then what you will say? You will say it is definitely greater than. And if it is greater than, so by what amount it is greater than? It is greater than with the 20,000 rupees. Now the second condition, check issued but not yet presented for the payment. You can understand the check issue, that means customer is actually issued the check of the 35,000 rupees, but it is not presented over the counter in the bank. So you can understand it is also just reflecting as a zero in the bank statement. But in this transaction, a cash book balance is a lesser than the passbook balance. And if it is lesser than the passbook balance, then you will just going to write here that the minus 35,000 rupees. Okay, now the third condition. bank charges of 1500 charged by the bank. That means it is just charged by the bank with the 1500, but the customer is not aware of that transaction. That means this would reflecting as a zero in the cash book. That means for that your cash book balance is a greater than the passbook balance, and if it is greater than the passbook balance, that means it will be plus 1500. Okay. Now the fourth condition, that is a customer directly deposited 25,000 into bank, then you will just write here 25,000 rupees, because customer is not aware of that transaction. That means you will just write here 25,000 rupees. And because customer is not aware of that, because one of the customer directly deposited, you can understand it is not the customer, like we are talking about any company's cash book balance, right? So you can understand the one of the customer, instead of the a customer, you can understand as a one of the customer. Okay, so one of the customer directly deposited the 25,000 rupees into the bank. So you can understand the if the customer is directly deposited the amount into the bank, so you can understand the customer, or you can understand as a firm manager, is not aware of this transaction. So you can understand for this also, the your cash book balance would be lesser than the passbook balance. Okay, so now you will just write here minus 25,000. Okay, I hope it is clear for everyone. If it is written here one of the customer, that means you can understand here one of the customer. Okay, like you can understand the debtor of the firm, like debtor of the company, debtor of the like your organization directly deposited the amount into the bank. So the the customer or the firm manager is not aware of that, so that's why this would reflect as a zero in the cash flow. Now, interest on the bank overdraft charged by the bank, that is 5,000 rupees. What it means that? It means that actually bank is charged, but customer is not aware of that. So this would reflect as a minus 5,000 rupees, and this would be reflect as a zero. So what like cash book balance is a greater than or lesser than? You will say cash book balance would be greater than the passbook balance with the 5,000 rupees. Okay. Now I hope it is understandable for everyone, right? Okay, so now just calculate and tell me what would be the answer of this. Like 150 20 minus 130. Okay, minus 130 minus 165 uh, minus 190 minus. Okay, the correct answer for this, what would be? That is 1,83,500, right? So that would be your answer, the 1,83,500. Okay, so this is you have to solve. This is the way you have to solve the questions in the examination also. Okay, 1,83,500. Okay, so this is the answer of this question. Is the This is the way you have to solve in the examination also. Now just try to solve the another question. Calculate value of the closing stock from the following, and the opening stock of the finished goods that is given, cost of productions are given, and the closing stock you have to calculate. That simply means that the opening stock value is given, cost of the production value is given, you have to just find out the closing stock value. Okay, so in this question the very important concept that actually applied, that is FIFO, first in first out. Okay, so you have to understand what is the meaning of the first in first out. Suppose that we are talking about a factory. Okay, so in this factory actually the lot of items that is just going to produced. Okay, so you can understand what is the meaning of the first in first out. Suppose that one product that is manufactured. Okay, so the very first thing that here we are just going to understand, whatever the product is manufactured, that is first going to be sold out. That means, suppose that we are talking about the opening stock of the finished good. What it means that? It means that the opening stock of the finished good, that means in the initial period of the year, in the initial period of the year, we actually started with the 500 units. Okay, we actually started with the 500 units in in the financial year. Okay, so we started with the 500 unit, and during the year we actually produced the 10,000 units. So during the year, we actually produced the 10,000 units. Now, closing stock, that is given the 1,000 unit. That clearly means that at the end of the year, we just having the 1,000 units that is remained with us. that means rest of the unit is actually sold out. Okay, so what we have to calculate, we have to calculate what would be the value of this 1000 units. Now I think you can understand, if we're talking about that we just having the 500 units during the initial in the initial period of the financial year. Okay, so that means the 500 units value is a 2000, that means one unit cost is a 4 rupees. And when we talk about the cost of production, that means during the year we actually produce a 10,000 units. Okay, and the rate that is 50,000, that means one unit cost that is a 5 rupees. Just a minute. Okay, one unit cost that is 5 rupees. Okay, so FIFO what says, FIFO rule what says that if we are just going to say here that is 500 units we having like initial period of the financial year, so first of all this 500 unit would be sold out. After that, we will sold from this 10,000 units. And if we ended with the 1000 unit, that means all the quantity of the 500 units already sold out. Okay, so if we ended with the 1000 unit, then what would be our answer? That is 1000 multiplied with the 5, and the correct answer that would be the 5000 rupees. Okay, so this is how we have to solve in this question. A very important rule, a very important concept that is apply FIFO, first in first out. Okay, right. Next question. Capital at the start of the business, that is 6 lakh is given. At the end of the year, worth of the assets are given, liabilities are given. Then capital at the end of the year, what would be? We have to just calculate here. Whenever we're talking about like the capital at the start of the business and the assets and liabilities and whatever the capital we have to just calculate here, you the very important thing, the assets and the liabilities datas you are having. Okay, and whenever we're talking about the accounting equation, a very important thing you have to understand, whenever we are just going to prepare the balance sheet. Okay, so balance sheet we usually prepare like the whenever we are just going to just account like the whenever we just going to prepare a final account. Okay, so you can understand it is if we have to just find out the capital at the end of the year, so that means we know the accounting equation, that is asset is equal to liability plus equity or capital or shareholders fund, right? That is your equation. Accounting equation or balance sheet equation, right? Now when we're talking about the capital at the end of the year, that means at the end of the year we actually having the assets information, we actually having the liabilities information. Then we can just definitely calculate the like the capital at the end of the year. Then it would be what? Then because we having the assets that is a 10 lakh, liabilities that is of the 2 lakh, and we have to just calculate the closing capital. So that closing capital that would be equal to the 8 lakh rupees. That would be your correct answer. Okay, right? So this is how we have to solve in this question. There is nothing there is nothing important for the capital at the starting of the business, because you are having the assets and the liabilities, and you have to calculate the end of the year that what should be your capital. Okay, so this is how we have to solve the questions in the examination also, right? Now I think everyone just understanding whatever I'm just going to convey you. Next question. When a machinery is purchased for the cash balance is reduced and the amount of the machinery as an asset is recorded. What it means that? It means that whenever you purchase any machinery, that means suppose that a company, we are talking about in terms of the company, that means company actually purchase the machinery. That means machinery is also just understand as an asset for the company. And for purchasing this machinery, actually your cash is going out from the business. And if your cash is going out from the business and your machine is just going to come into your business, that means what is written here? It is written here that is the cash balance is reduced. Okay. So definitely cash balance is reduced and the amount of the machinery as an asset is recorded. So this is according to which principle? Because here we are talking about the going to record the like whatever is coming into your business and whatever is going out from your business. That means we are just talking about the dual aspect principle. Okay, so the correct answer of this question, that is dual aspect principle, right? Next question. Company ABC bought furniture by the cash 50,000 rupees. What would be the debit and credit while generalizing? a very important concept you are going to understand in this. Whenever we're talking about the company, okay, what we understand by that, if a company is just bought furniture by the cash, that means the furniture actually coming in and cash is actually going out. And we can understand a very important rule when we're talking about the furniture here and the cash here. So that means furniture is also the asset of your company and cash is also asset for your company. And whenever we're talking about the asset, then all asset comes under the real account category. And for the real account category, debit and credit concept says that debit what comes in and credit what goes out, right? So for this question, what would be the answer? That is debit furniture account and credit cash account. That would be the correct answer of this question. Okay, I am hoping that everyone just understanding this, right? So this is how we have to solve. Like you have to just understand like which account belong to which account category. After that, debit and credit rules says what for that account, and that's how we have to solve. Okay, next question. One of the question that usually come into examination based on this pro rata basis. So a company came out with a public issue of the 2,50,000 shares of the 100 rupees each and receives application for the 3 lakh shares. So X had applied for the 180 shares in the company. So on a pro rata basis, how many shares will be get? Okay, so how to solve this kind of the question? You know, the very important thing you have to understand that what exactly happened. Actually, company actually issued 2,50,000 shares. Okay, so company issued 2,50,000 shares, but you know, people's or public actually applied for the 3 lakh shares. Okay, so this is actually understandable as a applied shares, but whatever the shares that the public is going to get, that is 2,50,000 rupees. Okay, so you can understand this is a getting shares and this is applied shares. Now X had applied for the 180 shares. So what is the ratio of that? You can understand this is a ratio of the 5 is to 6, right? That means if the 6, if any shareholder is applied for the 6, that means he is just going to get the 5 shares respect of that. Okay, so suppose that any person that is X applied for the 180 shares, so you can understand that if the value of the 6 that is 180, so what would be the value of the 5? Okay, so you can understand this is a multiplication of the 30 and the same multiplication of the 30, that would be the 150. The correct answer that would be the 150 for this question. Okay, right? So this is how you have to solve, and you can understand the on the pro rata basis you are going to get this kind of the questions in the examination. Okay, so I'm hoping that it is understandable for everyone. Next question. Which of the following is the most appropriate formula for the working out the amount of the cost of sale? What will be the answer of this? You know, whenever you're talking about the cost of sale, you have to understand a very important thing. A cost of sale is also known as a cost of goods sold. Okay, so cost of sales also known as a cost of goods sold. And when we're talking about the cost of goods sold, what is the formula for that? We actually started with what? We actually started what we understand in the like the previous question, what we understand. If we're talking about the financial year, that means we actually started with the financial year, like the initial period of the financial year. So whatever the stocks we are having, and what if we're talking about the opening stock, that actually considered as a closing stock of the previous year. Okay, so suppose that we are talking about this financial year, so we actually started with the opening stock, and this opening stock is nothing but the closing stock of the previous year. Okay, so we actually just write here that is opening stock. After that some purchases has done. So opening stock, you can understand, after that some purchases has done. After that we will also add here that is direct expenses. Now what we understand by the direct expenses? You can understand, suppose that this is you and this is your office and this is your factory. Okay, so this is your factory and this is you, this is your office and this is you. So whatever the expenses that is related to your factory, that all considered as a direct expenses, and whatever the expenses that actually just relate to your office, that all just considered as a indirect expenses. Okay, now the question depends on like in what context the question is just asking in the examination. You only have to understand if we're talking about the factory level expenses, that just considered as a direct expenses. Okay, So the very important example of this, because based on that the multiple type of the question we actually saw in the examination, like the very important question, that is wages and salaries. Okay, so when we're talking about the wages we usually give to the laborers, right? So whenever we're talking about the wages, and laborers actually works in the factory. Where we're talking about the salaries we given to the employees, and employees or just employee actually works in the office. So you can understand the wages related to what? Wages related to the direct expenses, and the salary is just related to your indirect expenses. Okay, so in this question, if I have to just tell what would be the answer of this, so you will say the value of the cost of goods sold, that is opening stock plus purchases plus direct expenses minus closing stock. The correct answer of this, that would be the C. Okay, I'm hoping that everyone just understood this. Right? Next question. Company ABC paid salaries by cash. What would be the debit and credit while generalizing? Okay, what would be the answer of this? When we talk about like company ABC paid salaries by the cash, you can understand the very important thing, the very first thing that you have to just recognize, which accounts probably included in this transaction. The very first account you will say, that would be the salary account, and another one, that would be the cash account. Okay, when we talk about company ABC paid salaries by the cash, so salary is a kind of the expense for the company, and expenses we keep where? Expenses we keep in which account category? That is nominal account category. Okay, so salary account, for the nominal account, debit and credit rule says what? That is debit all the expenses, so that your salary account would be going to debit there, and cash account would be going to credit there. Okay, and you can understand cash is the asset for your company, and all asset comes under the real account category. And for the real account category, golden rule of the accounting says that debit what comes in and credit what goes out. So your cash account would be credit in this question. Okay, so the correct answer for this question, that would be the debit salary account and credit cash account. Okay, I hope it is understandable for everyone. Next question. If the door is in need of the money and cannot wait till due date and receive the money from bank, is called what? Whenever we are talking about like door, whenever this question is just taken from the bill of exchange. You can understand, in the bill of exchange there are three parties: the one party whose name is a door, another party whose name is a doi, and another party whose name is a pay. Pay just known as a third party, or you can understand, if the door just endorse the payment into the name of that pay. Okay, so DOR, you can also understand DOR just known as a maker of the bill of exchange. Okay, DOI known as the acceptor of the bill of exchange. Okay, and pay known as a third party. So suppose that DOR, and the very important thing now you also have to understand, DOR just known as a seller, and DOI known as a buyer, and pay you can understand endorsing. Okay, so now if we talk about like the door is in need of the money, suppose that seller actually sold seller this is a seller and this is a buyer. Okay, so seller actually sold the goods to the buyer. Okay, so you can understand now the seller is actually need of the money, so and cannot wait till due date and receive the money from the bank. That actually known as a case of the discounting the bill. The correct answer for this, that is discounting the bill. Okay, next question. A firm purchase a machinery for the 2 lakh and it is to be depreciated by the 20% at the declining balance method. What will be the value of the machine after the third year? Whenever we're talking about the declining balance method, the very important thing you have to understand, in the declining balance method, depreciation would always charged on the previous year's and value. Okay, this is a very important concept. Like when we talk about the declining balance method, depreciation would always charged on the previous year's and value. Now when we talk about, we are having the machinery of for the 2 lakh rupees, so you will just write here 2 lakh rupees, and we can understand, if we have to just calculate the value of the machine after third year. Okay, So after third year, if we have to calculate, so how to calculate in the exam in a very simple way? The value of the machine is a 2 lakh, and it is to be depreciated by the 20%. And we also know that the value, like the depreciation, always charged on the previous year end value. So instead, like if you have to calculate the value, you can understand, you just have to multiply it with the point 0.8, point 0.8, point 0.8. This point 0.8 is nothing but, you can understand in this, suppose that the value of the machine is a 2 lakh, okay, and 80%, 80%, and 80%. Okay, so instead of the 80%, we actually just write the point 0.8 here. Now if you just solve this and just tell me what would be the value of this, what is the value of the machine after the third year, just calculate this. 2 lakh, point 0.8, point 0.8, and point 0.8. The correct answer, that would be the 1 lakh 2,400. So that would be the value of the machine after the third year. Look how simply we can solve the questions in the examination if we having the correct approach. Okay, so that's all for this session. I hope everyone just enjoyed this session, and if you enjoyed this session, do not forget to like this video, okay, and share this video to your friends and subscribe the channel also. And once again, I just want to tell you here that you are just going to enroll, like in the, you can just enroll in the bilingual as well as the English medium batches of like JIB, okay, and the complete JIB video course also. You are just going to get the Adda 247 store. Okay, you only have to use the code Y422, because with this you are going to get the big discount. So you are going to get the courses in the bilingual as well as the English medium batches. Okay, the second thing, that you also just subscribe for the test packs, because the mock, when we talk about the mock test, it actually gives the final test to our preparation. So you only have to use the code Y422, and with this code you are just going to get the big discount on that also. So thank you everyone for watching me in this video, and just join me regularly at the 7 a.m. and like this video if you're liking our effort, liking our content. Thank you everyone for joining.